Hey, y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name's Brian, and Senator Kennedy absolutely roasts this know-nothing Democrat witness only to be tag-teamed with a Republican witness who absolutely drives the point home. She hits the nail right on the head, and so does Senator Kennedy. Let's dive in.
Did I understand you to testify that anti-Semitism is worse under the Trump administration?
Senator, thank you for your question.
You don't have to thank me. Okay. Your best thanks is to answer.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you that anti-Semitism has been rising, especially since the 2017
but has the Trump
Charlottesville
administration caused that? Is that your testimony?
I wouldn't say the Trump administration has caused anti-Semitism. Has there been an increase since Trump has entered office? Yes.
Do you see a causal connection there?
Yes.
Why?
Trump has highlighted and platformed neo-Nazis and white supremacists.
Okay. I can't see that far.
Racklin, you're
Mr. Racklin, I understood you to say that in answer to Senator Durbin's question, the spending reductions, reducing the federal budget would increase anti-Semitism. Isn't that what you said?
No, I did not. I said that the constant threats to cut money to the Office for Civil Rights and the Department of Education prevents the federal government from adequately investigating anti-Semitism and other hate crimes on college campuses.
So you think one way to stop anti-Semitism is to give people more money? Is that right?
I think one of the ways is to actually fund people that are actually designed to investigate anti-Semitism on college campuses.
What's there to investigate? We see it.
We see
We
it,
saw
but
it. Did you watch television? Did you see what happened at Columbia?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it was clear to me that the administration at Columbia and most members of the faculty believe passionately in diversity, equity, inclusion, and the right to hurt Jews. That's what I saw. Isn't that what you saw?
I saw
Isn't that what you saw?
protesters against the war in Gaza and them using some anti-Semitic slogans and thoughts. I would say, however, that it's hard. I would say,
isn't that
however,
what you're telling me?
that
That's not what you saw. Now, don't get off the subject on me now. You're telling me that's not what you saw.
I'm telling you that it is difficult for the federal government to adequately address the issue of anti-Semitism.
Are you telling me the
the
Columbia administration and the faculty was supportive of the Jewish community?
I think that they are
You
trying
need
to
to
find
stop dipping into your ketamine stash.
into what? Excuse me?
Now, that if we're going to solve this problem, we need to talk about it.
I'm
And
happy
it
to
wasn't
talk
just
about
at Columbia. It was at Berkeley. It was at UCLA. It was at Barnard. And Columbia has a history of discriminating against the Jewish people. They used to refuse to let Jewish students come to their university. Now, you can try to bubble wrap this, but that's what I saw. If you want to stop a lot of the anti-Semitism, maybe we need to stop teaching kids to be anti-Semitic.
Sir, I would relish that opportunity.
Let me ask you a question, Ms. Kohab. Did I say that right?
Kohav.
Do you think it's possible to feel compassion for the Palestinian people without hating Jews?
Absolutely.
Would you elaborate on that? Because it looks to me like many of our Ivy League universities, they weren't the only ones. Some universities handled it well. Vanderbilt, University of Chicago, Tulane. But it looks like the administration was teaching kids you got to pick a side. Mm-hmm. You either have to hate Jews or you have to be for Hamas. You can't be. There's no middle ground. Tell me what you saw. You've written a book about it. Maybe Mr. Rocklin ought to read it.
Just because we are testifying, I wrote a chapter in the anthology Young Zionist Voices about what's happening on college campuses, and my book is coming soon, so look out for that.
Good plug, but
so let me answer your question.
Can you feel compassion for the Palestinian people and not hate Jews?
Absolutely. I think that what I've seen on college campuses is a pushing of a Marxist framing of the way that you see the world. And this is not only in liberal studies departments. I've taken dance classes, I've taken creative writing classes, where your final project is literally called the political is personal. And what they're teaching you on college campuses is that the political is personal and that everything should be personalized. And there's a global north, a global south, a global right, and a global wrong. And the issue with college campuses and what's happening right now in the United States is that we're allowing ideology to drive violence. A society that says that you can commit violent acts based on your ideology because your ideology is correct is a society that's eroding. And that's what I see on college campuses.
And there you have it. Okay, it is as simple as that. One of the biggest problems in our entire education system isn't the fact that we're bad at educating our own students anymore. It's much, much deeper and much, much worse, and it's not limited just to anything anti-Semitic. It is the whole ideology of a Marxist worldview. And if you look at the books back here, you'll notice there isn't any Marxist stuff out there at all. In fact, I love being able to point out these two things, one of which, the Krakow Dragon, and then the end of the Berlin Wall right above my head. So yeah, I'm not exactly the biggest fan of Marx. And if you ever got that impression, I don't know how you got to this point. But regardless of that, that is the single biggest issue is the Marxist worldview in our school system. Saying that students have to look through the entire world as through the lens of oppressor versus oppressed and not, attacker versus the defenseless. Okay? Instead of looking in terms of what is good, what is true, what is real, they're talking about, the poor Palestinian people, they have been just so oppressed and they can get away with just about anything. That is absolutely asinine. It is illogical. And the worst part is it's straight up immoral. Forget the whole idea of taking away private property rights. Marxism is immoral in both economic terms and social terms as well. And this rot has taken hold throughout the entire education system. Now, education has always skewed a little bit liberal, mainly because essentially they're in their little enclaves. They're really kind of disassociated from any real world problems. That's why these college towns spring up the way they do. They're out usually either inside of the cities and they have a big old gate around it, or they're well outside of the cities and they're their own little community, so they don't really have to interact with the real world. Well, now the real world is here, and let's deal with the other issue that's starting. And no, it has nothing to do with Mr. Racklin's ketamine addiction. Oh, I love Senator Kennedy. Only he can get away with an insult like that. See, Mr. Racklin, who was called in by the Democrats, thought it was going to be a good idea to say that, hey, don't defund us. We're the people that investigate into anti-Semitism. But Senator Kennedy makes a simple point of maybe, just maybe, we can look at this at the television and see for ourselves. And we've proven this time and time again. Columbia University is quite literally operating outside of the laws of the United States. And the Trump administration is finally doing something about it. But most recently, Trump's education department on Monday threatened to withhold more than $50 million in federal funding from Columbia University. I think he should go a whole lot farther and with a whole lot more schools. The site of some of the largest and most active protests, citing what it called an ongoing inaction in the face of relentless harassment of Jewish students. The administration targeting of funds to Columbia marks its most noteworthy action on the issue so far. It said in a news release that it would review more than $5 billion in federal grants commitments to Columbia University to ensure the university is in compliance with federal regulations, including its civil rights responsibilities. And instead of looking at this issue, Mr. Racklin then thinks, you can't withhold money from these institutions. That's going to hurt anti-Semitism. Okay? That's going to hurt our efforts. I call BS, because those things are already happening and they're being subsidized by our tax dollars. And then there was that first witness, bless her heart, out here saying that things have gotten even worse under the Trump administration in terms of anti-Semitism. If anything, it has been an eye-opener that allows even more action to be taken in a civil suit against places like Columbia University. And then we have to talk about Ms. Cohab, who has who has quite literally dealt with this issue firsthand because she was a student at New York University and had to deal with that nonsense as a Jewish student, and now has graduated, is writing a book on the process, and she absolutely hits this out of the park. The problem is indeed Marxist indoctrination that is ruining these students' brains. It's turning them straight to mush. Then it's the whole idea that you can protest for Palestinians, but you also have to be just vile to anyone who is Jewish and doesn't have a tie to the Israelis. That is an absolutely insane position that has no basis in reality, no logical framework, and really nothing workable or sane about the whole situation. For some insipid reason, Marxism has given way to this rise of woke, and there's a whole deep background with that, starting out in the Pacific Northwest. And it has made its long march through the institutions, just as Mao made his long march through China to end up winning his civil war against Chiang Kai-shek, and then launching the Cultural Revolution. That's what Marxists want here in the United States. I remember Glenn Beck talking about this nearly 15 years ago now, and nothing has changed in that time frame, because Marxists want the revolution. They will continue to push for this in the schools. They will continue to push for this in the streets, and they will do so time and time again until they're pushed back into complete and total irrelevancy, which is what they deserve. That sort of mental disaster, just for lack of a better phrase, because it is ultimately a disaster for your mind to buy into anything Marxist related. And Ms. Kohab has pointed that out perfectly. Senator Kennedy, of course, is being Senator Kennedy. And poor Mr. Racklin, he's trying to do a good job, but ultimately he realizes where his paycheck comes from, and it comes from grant money from the U.S. government. Now, maybe directly or indirectly, but that's the reason why he's speaking out against cutting funding when, let's be honest, you don't need to spend $50 million to know that there is a major, just an awful amount of anti-Semitism happening on our college campuses. We can see it with our own two eyes. We don't need to spend any more tax dollars on the issue. It's time that we start taking action against places like Columbia, and that is exactly what I voted for, and I hope you did too. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politbro. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. And until then, y'all have a good one.